uh, usually when we think about pregnancy, there's a, very predictable biological clock.
Right, exactly. 9 months.
Yeah, you count the weeks, and there's this universal human timeline of about 9 months. But when we dive into Puranic literature, timelines are almost always metaphorical.
Oh, absolutely.
We routinely encounter stories that just completely shatter any concept of logic or biology to make a deeper philosophical point. And today, for this deep dive, we are looking at a pregnancy that lasts 12 to 16 years.
Which is just a wild concept.
It really is. And the question isn't, how that is biologically possible. The question is, well, what is the psychological or spiritual state this represents?
Right.
Metaphorically, what is this incredibly stubborn fetus so afraid of that he refuses to be born for over a decade?
Well, to put it simply, he is afraid of forgetting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that prolonged stay in the womb belongs to sage Shukadeva, who is also known simply as Shuka. And he is a towering figure in Hindu mythology.
Truly towering.
So, our mission today is to explore his, frankly, bizarre biography and his profound mythological role. We are pulling from a really fascinating mix of sources for you today.
We've got everything from heavy academic texts on Vedic philosophy to official Indian district tourism portals and even some modern mythological retellings.
And they all center on this one figure who manages to bridge the gap between absolute formless meditation and passionate, loving devotion.
We're going to examine a story involving that impossible pregnancy we mentioned, a high-stakes psychological test with a cup of oil, and a ticking clock of 7 days to find the meaning of life. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So before we can even begin to understand his teachings, to understand why Shuka spends 16 years refusing to leave the womb, we really have to look at who, or rather what, he was before he even got there.
Because his origins are entirely supernatural.
Entirely.
In one prominent tradition, his previous life was actually as the personal parrot of the goddess Radha Devi.
Which is funny because Shuka literally translates to parrot in Sanskrit.
Right. Exactly. The avian connection is a massive theme in his mythology. So, when Radha Devi finished her earthly pastimes and prepared to return to her spiritual abode, this parrot was just devastated by the impending separation.
Obviously.
Right. But she promised him he wouldn't feel that pain if he went to a place where the stories of the Supreme Lord were being told.
And this sets him on a cosmic journey to find the ultimate spiritual knowledge.
Which leads him directly to the god Shiva.
Right, so picture this. Shiva is sitting with his wife, Parvati, preparing to tell her the ultimate secret of immortality.
A pretty big deal.
A huge deal. Because in Puranic texts, spiritual knowledge isn't just, information. It has physical transformative power.
Exactly.
So Shiva clears the area. He wants total privacy.
Yeah.
And he tells Parvati to make a humming sound.
Yeah.
So he knows she's paying attention to this long cosmic explanation.
Because it's a long story.
Right. But as we see so often in these texts, human, or in this case, divine frailty kicks in, and Parvati falls asleep.
But the humming continues.
Wait, really? How?
Well, a parrot egg nearby had hatched, and this tiny bird is sitting there absorbing the absolute secret of immortality, just humming along to keep Shiva talking.
Oh, that is brilliant.
Right. So when Shiva finally finishes and realizes a parrot just absorbed the ultimate cosmic secret, a cosmic chase ensues.
I mean, naturally. You can't just let a parrot fly away with the secret of immortality.
Exactly. The parrot flees and eventually flies into the ashram of the great sage Vyasa. Now, Vyasa's wife happens to be yawning at that exact moment.
What are the odds?
I know, and the parrot flies right into her yawning mouth and straight down into her womb.
That is wild. But our sources also provide a completely alternate birth story, don't they?
We do, yeah.
Though it maintains that exact same avian symbolism. Yeah. In this version, Vyasa is churning wood to start a sacrificial fire.
Oh, right.
He sees a beautiful celestial nymph, an apsara named Gritachi. He is completely overcome by her beauty, his seed falls, and from that, Shuka is created.
And Gritachi immediately flies away in the form of a bird.
The bird theme is so strong. But regardless of how he got into the womb, the philosophical core of the story really begins with what happens next.
Because he flat out refuses to come out.
For 12 to 16 years.
Yes. The texts describe Shuka as a Garbhashriman.
Which means?
It means he was a self-realized soul while still in the womb. He already possessed complete cosmic knowledge.
Right.
He understood that the moment a soul is born into the physical world, it is subjected to Maya.
Maya, which is usually translated as illusion, right?
Commonly, yes. But it's more accurate to describe it as the cosmic force that causes us to perceive duality. It creates the illusion of separation from the divine.
And that leads to attachment and ego.
Exactly. Attachment, ego, pain, ignorance. Shuka was absolutely terrified of losing his cosmic perspective and becoming entangled in worldly attachments.
But wait, obviously we aren't talking about human biology here. Metaphorically, if he is already a self-realized soul, a master of cosmic knowledge, why is he so terrified of Maya?
It's a fair question.
Like, shouldn't a fully realized being be completely immune to worldly illusions? It seems counterintuitive that someone with supreme knowledge would have to, hide in the dark to protect it.
What's fascinating here is that it speaks to the sheer overwhelming power of Maya in Vedic philosophy. Even the most advanced souls are deeply, deeply cautious of its influence.
Ah, okay.
The text suggests that the physical act of birth, the actual trauma of entering the material plane, acts as a profound amnesiac.
Makes you forget everything.
Yes, and Shuka isn't taking any chances. He refuses to enter the world until he receives a cosmic insurance policy.
A cosmic insurance policy.
Basically, he demands that Lord Krishna himself intervene and give a personal, unbreakable guarantee that Maya will not touch him.
And Krishna does?
He does. And only with that divine protection does Shuka finally agree to be born.
Wow. So now that he's finally born, how does a child with infinite cosmic knowledge behave in a normal family?
Spoiler alert, he doesn't.
Yeah, his entrance into the world completely defies biological and societal norms, which makes sense given his state of mind.
Toy.
He uses his yogic powers to emerge not as a helpless infant, but as a fully formed 12-year-old boy.
Which is terrifying for the parents, I'm sure.
Right, and he just bypasses all the traditional societal steps. In Vedic tradition, human life is structured around very specific stages and rituals.
Right, like the Upanayana.
Exactly, the thread ceremony. It initiates a young boy into the formal study of the Vedas under a guru. It is a massive foundational pillar of that society.
And Shuka just completely ignores it.
He literally walks out the door to renounce the world the very moment he is born.
And bypassing those rituals is a profound philosophical statement. The texts classify him as a Purnajnani.
A being full of complete knowledge.
Exactly. Absolute knowledge. He had absolutely nothing left to learn from human institutions or formal Vedic study.
But this creates this intense emotional conflict with his father.
Oh, devastating.
Because Vyasa isn't just any father. He is the revered sage who compiled the Vedas themselves.
He is the establishment.
He is. He represents the absolute pinnacle of traditional spiritual scholarship. And he is just heartbroken watching his son walk away without a single word.
So Vyasa chases after this 12-year-old boy who is running into the forest. He's desperately crying out, "Putra, Putra!"
Son, son.
Yeah. But Shuka doesn't even look back. He has no concept of father or son because those are dualities created by Maya.
But the sources tell us something really beautiful happens here. The trees and the animals echo back to Vyasa. They answer for Shuka.
That haunting image perfectly illustrates the concept of Tanmaya Bhava.
Tanmaya Bhava.
Yes, which translates to complete absorption or oneness with the universe. Shuka didn't perceive himself as an isolated individual bounded by a physical body.
Right.
His consciousness was so universally expanded that he was indistinguishable from nature itself. So when Vyasa called out, the very fabric of the forest responded.
Because in a very real spiritual sense, Shuka was the forest. And that complete lack of bodily consciousness sets up one of the most famous incidents in his early life.
The bathing women incident.
Yes. So Shuka is wandering naked through the forest, entirely unconcerned with social conventions. And he walks past a lake where a group of celestial women are bathing.
Right.
They see this naked teenager walk right by them, and they don't even blink. They don't try to cover themselves at all.
But then, a few minutes later,
Vyasa comes running down the exact same path. He is fully clothed, he's an old, highly respected sage, and the moment the women see him, they immediately scramble to cover themselves.
and Vyasa is understandably confused by this double standard. I mean, he's an old man and his son is a teenager.
Right, but we can look at this through a modern psychological lens for a second. Think about the difference between changing your clothes in front of a 6-month-old baby versus an adult.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
You don't feel embarrassed or try to hide from a baby because an infant has absolutely no judgment. They have no concept of social norms, bodily shame, or sexualization.
A baby's gaze is entirely neutral.
Exactly. And Shuka, despite being physically 12, possessed that same absolute neutrality. He had zero bodily consciousness.
And the women themselves articulate that distinction to Vyasa using the concept of a Hans versus a Paramhans.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. A Hans, which translates to a swan, represents a wise, spiritually advanced sage. Vyasa is a Hans.
Okay.
He sees the divine, he understands the scriptures, but he still perceives the world through the lens of duality.
He still sees men and women.
Right. He still sees the distinction between men and women, fathers and sons, physical bodies, and the environment. Therefore, his gaze carries the weight of societal norms.
But Shuka is a Paramhans,
A supreme swan.
a supreme swan. He is utterly detached from those dualities. He perceives absolutely everything, including physical planes, merely as manifestations of the divine.
And the women recognize that Shuka's gaze held no distinction, no judgment, and no worldly desire. Looking at him was literally like looking at the sky or a tree.
That is so profound. But Shuka's preference is to simply remain in that forest, right? He just wants to constantly meditate on the formless absolute.
But his father has other plans.
Right. Vyasa, who represents traditional Dharma, believes that true spiritual realization must be tested and grounded in reality, not just, isolated in a forest.
So he insists Shuka needs a guru.
And he sends him to King Janaka, which introduces a massive contradiction for someone like Shuka.
Oh, completely.
Because King Janaka rules the wealthy kingdom of Mithila. He lives in a massive palace surrounded by an army, a queen, and endless luxury.
To Shuka, this is the absolute epicenter of Maya.
Yeah. He is deeply skeptical of how a king dripping in wealth could possibly teach him anything about spiritual detachment.
In fact, our sources say Shuka actually walks away from the palace gates 12 times before finally forcing himself to go inside on the 13th attempt.
Wow, 13th time's the charm. But King Janaka's spiritual reputation is what makes this encounter so vital, right?
Exactly. Janaka was known as a videha, meaning bodiless.
Bodiless. But he's a physical king.
Right, it's a spiritual title. He was a Javan Mukta, someone who has achieved complete spiritual liberation while still living and functioning within a physical body and societal role.
Ah, got it.
And Janaka anticipates Shuka's skepticism and decides to test him before teaching him.
And the test begins the moment Shuka arrives. First, the palace guards just completely ignore him at the gates, treating him like a nuisance.
Which doesn't bother him at all.
Not at all. So when that fails to anger Shuka, they pivot to the complete other extreme. They roll out the ultimate VIP luxury package.
Oh, yeah, they pull out all the stops.
They take him to elaborate hospitality chambers. They offer him sumptuous feasts, clothe him in fine silks, and have beautiful maidens offer him massages. They just throw every conceivable worldly temptation at him.
And Shuka remains entirely unmoved.
That's stone cold.
He just politely rejects all of it, stating he has no internal desire for any of these comforts.
So, having proven his immunity to basic temptations, Shuka finally meets Janaka and essentially demands to know how a king can call himself a yogi.
And Janaka's response is to give Shuka a physical, high-stakes psychological test.
The cup of oil.
Yes. Janaka takes a cup, fills it to the absolute brim with oil, and places it right on Shuka's head.
And then he orders Shuka to take a walking tour of this magnificent, incredibly distracting, opulent palace.
But there is a massive catch.
Right. Janaka places guards with drawn swords on either side of Shuka, with strict orders to strike him down if he spills a single drop of oil.
It is the ultimate test of focus.
Seriously. So when Shuka returns from the tour, having successfully navigated the palace without spilling a drop, Janaka asks him to describe the beautiful architecture, the dancers, and the wealth he saw during his walk.
And Shuka admits he didn't see a single thing.
Not one thing. Because his entire consciousness was focused on the cup of oil.
Exactly.
Like if we think about navigating a crowded, chaotic subway station while carrying a cup of hot coffee filled to the very brim, your peripheral vision just shuts down.
Oh, completely.
You aren't looking at the advertisements or the people. Your universe shrinks down to the surface tension of that liquid.
And Janaka uses that exact admission to explain his own psychological state to Shuka.
Yeah.
He tells the young sage that the cup of oil represents the higher reality, the divine. Janaka lives in a palace, rules a kingdom, manages an economy, and interacts with his family. But his internal focus is entirely and permanently fixed on the divine.
It never wavers.
Never. Just like Shuka's focus was on the oil.
And Janaka drives this point home with the fire test, doesn't he?
He does.
Right in the middle of their philosophical debate, a guard rushes into the throne room and shouts that the army barracks are on fire.
And Janaka doesn't panic.
Not at all. He doesn't drop his spiritual discourse. He just calmly says, it is the will of God, and continues the conversation.
Which is wild.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it always raises an uncomfortable question for anyone trying to balance jobs, families, and their inner lives. Like, is Janaka advocating for apathy? If your house is burning down, are you supposed to just ignore it in the name of spirituality?
No, it is a crucial distinction to make here. Janaka is not advocating apathy or negligence. He is demonstrating the concept of karma yoga.
Detached action.
Specifically detached action, yes. It isn't about refusing to send the fire brigade to put out the fire. It is about not being internally destroyed by the fact that the fire happened.
Oh, that makes sense.
You perform your required duties, you rule the kingdom, you care for your family, you extinguish the flames, but you remain internally untethered to the outcomes.
Your true anchor is the divine.
Exactly. You can walk through the most distracting, worldly palace of life as long as your ultimate focus never wavers from that higher truth.
So having absorbed this incredible lesson, Shuka returns to the forest and enters into Nirvikalpa Samadhi.
The deepest possible state of meditation.
Right. It is a completely formless absolute trance where the practitioner merges entirely with the void.
Yeah.
There is no thought, no identity, no perception of the outside world.
He is completely off the grid.
Totally. And this creates an insurmountable problem for his father.
Because Vyasa has just finished compiling his masterpiece.
The Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes, which is this massive, sprawling text detailing the stories, philosophies, and glories of the divine, specifically focusing on the personal form of Lord Krishna.
And Vyasa knows that only a soul as pure and detached as Shuka is qualified to narrate it to the world.
But he can't penetrate Shuka's deep trance to teach it to him.
Right, because Shuka is beyond any material temptation.
Yeah.
You obviously can't lure him out of a cosmic trance with gold or food.
No.
So Vyasa has to set a very specific poetic trap. He sends his disciples deep into the forest where Shuka is meditating and instructs them to chant a very specific verse from the Bhagavatam.
And the verse they chant doesn't describe abstract philosophy. It describes the sheer, breathtaking, physical and spiritual beauty of Krishna. It paints an image of him walking through the forest, wearing a peacock feather crown, playing a flute, glowing like a dark rain cloud.
And this specific vibration of supreme personal beauty reaches Shuka inside his formless void.
And it snaps him out of it.
It's amazing. To put this in perspective for you listening, imagine someone who believes they only enjoy complex, abstract, theoretical math.
Okay.
They live entirely in their head, completely satisfied by the perfection of formless equations. They think emotion is just a distraction.
Right.
And then suddenly they hear a piece of profoundly beautiful music. And they realize that the music is actually mathematical perfection, expressed through emotion.
Oh, I love that.
They realize that logic and beauty can coexist. The math is still true, but the music gives it a beating heart.
That is exactly it. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the academic texts highlight this exact moment as the most pivotal shift in Shuka's journey. He transitions from a strict impersonalist philosophy, which focuses solely on the formless absolute, or Brahman, to bhakti yoga.
The path of loving devotion.
Yes, loving devotion to a personal God. He realizes that true liberation isn't just about escaping the world into a silent void. It's about experiencing supreme divine love.
Right.
The texts referred to this practice as Trida Bhakti, the continuous process of chanting, hearing, and remembering the divine.
And he is so captivated by this glimpse of divine beauty that he rushes home to his father, learns the entire 18,000 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and is profoundly transformed.
So he takes all that immense cosmic knowledge he guarded so fiercely in the womb and finally decides it is meant to be shared.
And the timing is absolutely perfect because the universe immediately provides him with the ultimate audience.
A man who desperately needs this exact knowledge.
Because he is facing a terrifying, inescapable deadline. King Parikshit.
Right.
Parikshit has been cursed by a sage to die by a snake bite in exactly 7 days.
Talk about a ticking clock.
Exactly. Facing his imminent mortality, he abandons his throne, travels to the banks of the river Ganges, and essentially asks the assembled sages of the world a single question.
Oh.
What is the most powerful, essential thing a person can do when they know they are about to die?
And out of nowhere, the naked, wandering sage Shuka appears.
Just perfect timing.
The sources mention they meet at a place called Shukadev, which is actually a real location that still exists today in Uttar Pradesh.
Really?
Yeah. They sit beneath the Akshayavat, a legendary 5,100-year-old banyan tree.
And the imagery there is deeply intentional, isn't it?
Very. A dying king seeking the truth under a tree that is said to be immortal and never sheds its leaves.
Wow. And under this undying tree, Shuka recites the entire Bhagavad for 7 days straight. He tells the king that death is not a fearful end, not a terrifying cliff you fall off into the darkness. Rather, it is a spiritual milestone.
Exactly.
So 7 days sounds like a curse. It sounds like a horror movie countdown.
Yeah.
But Shuka is essentially pointing out a universal truth for the king and for you listening right now.
We all only have 7 days.
Exactly. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That is the entirety of the human lifespan. The clock is always ticking for every single one of us, and none of us know which day will be our last.
And the brevity of life is a recurring theme in Vedic philosophy. Shuka validates this by referencing the story of Maharaj Katwan, who was actually an ancestor of King Parikshit.
Oh, right.
Katwan was informed he only had 1.5 hours left to live.
90 minutes.
Just 90 minutes, but instead of panicking, he focused his mind entirely on the divine in that 90 minutes and achieved complete spiritual perfection.
So Shuka's lesson is that the length of your life is totally irrelevant. What matters is the intensity of your focus and the complete shedding of your fear.
And Parikshit listens for those 7 days. He completely sheds his fear of mortality, and when the snake finally arrives, his consciousness is already spiritually liberated.
It is just a truly incredible biographical arc. I mean, we watch a soul so terrified of worldly illusions that it hid in a womb for 16 years, evolve into a teenager carrying a cup of oil through a distracting palace.
And finally become a wise sage, sitting under a banyan tree, teaching a king how to face death with a smile.
Shuka's journey teaches us that ultimate spirituality isn't about running away from the world to hide in a forest. It's about how you train your attention while you are walking directly through it.
He completely synthesizes absolute formless detachment with supreme personal devotion. He proves that the two are not mutually exclusive.
So what does this all mean for you as you navigate your own 7 days?
Well, the deeper you go into these ancient texts, the more fascinating complexities you find.
Right, we've spent this entire time exploring Shuka as the ultimate unattached ascetic, a man who didn't even notice he wasn't wearing clothes, who completely ignored the wealth of kings.
But some of the Puranic sources claim that after his time learning from King Janaka, Shuka actually married a woman named Pavari.
Wait, married?
Married. And he didn't just marry. The texts say they had 5 children together.
See, it initially feels like a massive contradiction to his entire character. Why would these ancient sacred texts give the ultimate detached monk a family life?
That's a great question.
Well, maybe it circles right back to the very beginning, to that 16-year pregnancy. When he was in the womb, he believed he had to hide from the world to maintain his purity.
Right.
But by the end of his journey, having learned from a king who ruled a massive kingdom while holding a metaphorical cup of oil in his mind, Shuka lived the ultimate lesson.
By marrying and having a family.
Exactly. Perhaps he provided the ultimate proof that you can be completely liberated, completely free from the illusions of Maya, and yet beautifully, deeply engaged in human life at the exact same time. You don't have to hide from the world to be free of it.
It is a profound paradox that just forces us to reevaluate what it actually means to be detached in our modern lives.
It truly does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life of Sage Shukadeva. We hope his journey from the womb to the immortal tree gave you something incredible to think about as you navigate your own week. Until next time, keep exploring.